What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name is Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're looking at the Bunnahabhain 18-year-old. Stick around. So we have an exciting one today. We've got a Bunnahabhain with us, and we've got a fancier one than our usual fare. We've got the 18-year-old with us. This is a very well-respected 18-year-old from one of my favorite distilleries, so I'm looking forward to this one. And I'll admit, I definitely do have a bit of a bias towards Bunnahabhain. I recently did a video where I ranked the Islay distilleries. I put Bunnahabhain at the top of my list. They make sherried whiskeys. I love sherried whiskeys. I think they have a very distinctive profile. I mean, they just make really good stuff. But they don't just do sherried whiskeys, they also have a peated line. The peated line also can be quite good. A bit more of a mixed bag, that one, but when they're great, they're great. In my opinion, though, Bunnahabhain's at its best when it's both sherried and offers us an age statement, and that's precisely what we've got here. Of course, this one's going to be 18 years old. It's also entirely matured in sherry casks. Now, I have been pretty forward in the past about how much I love the 12-year-old. I still do. It's an excellent whiskey, great bang for buck, and it was one of my first loves when I got into whiskey. And pretty soon after I first tried that 12-year-old, I wanted to move up in the range. So my first bottle of 18-year-old here was probably about maybe 10 years ago. And I remember my friends and I thoroughly enjoyed that bottle. However, the bottle we had back then and the bottle I've got with me today are in fact quite different. A few years back, Bunnahabhain redid their label design, and they also tinkered with their formulas a little bit. This didn't fly for a lot of people, especially people who are really into the old version of the 18-year-old. Yeah, lots of people say this one's not quite as good. And I'm sure it'd be very interesting to compare that old version of the Bunna 18 with the new one. I'm not going to be doing that, though, because I haven't had a version of the old 18 in a long time, and I'd just be going off of memory, and I don't really trust myself to make that comparison or make that judgment, so I'll just be looking at this bottle for what it is. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there are expecting a glowing review. I'm kind of expecting a glowing review myself, but you know what? You never know. So why don't we hop into our review of this one, see what our whiskey is all about, and in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So we do have a Bunnahabhain here with the standard Bunnahabhain specs, which of course don't disappoint. Our ABV on this one comes in at 46.3%. It's of course going to be non-chill filtered, and our color is natural. So we can't make out the color of our whiskey, which is true of most Islay brands, but not all. For presentation, I think this is a great looking bottle. I like the blue on the 18, a little bit more than the red we have on the 12. I like the redesigned logo. I think that looks great. It's a little bit old school. It's a little bit modern. Definitely looks craft. Presentation's 5 out of 5. We've got non-chill filtered and natural color front and center on the label, which is great. We have a bit of a marketing blurb on the back, but nothing too obnoxious. And it does include some tasting notes as well as a bit of production info. It tells us that it's entirely matured in sherry barrels, which of course is great to know. So overall, I think it's a great look with a good amount of info. This is a bottle I put towards the front of my shelf. Let's try our nose. Okay, wow. Big, rounded, aged, sophisticated. We have big sherry in here, but it's got kind of like a restrained sweetness. We have some semi-sweet chocolate, some juicy raisins, sticky toffee, marmalade, marzipan, blackberry jam in here. We have some damp soil, maybe, sweet tobacco, some stewed fruits in this. There is a little hint of sulfur in here, but it works, it's integrated into the character, and it's balanced. This is a stunning nose. Now the palate. Mouth coating, big. Chocolate, honey drizzled dates. Definitely some like exotic spices in here, some oak spice, some more red stewed fruits in this, salt, caramel, little hint of smoke in here, some maltiness for sure, very rich, very full. What else? Let me see. We have some musty oak, some damp soil, some autumn leaves, some faint chili, and a very faint nuttiness. Awesome. Now our finish. Okay. Still very fruity. Big fruit skin note, red apple skin, some herbal notes in here, but kind of like indistinct herbal notes. We have some rum balls. We have more berry jam. This is complex. It's layered. It's interesting. Alright, so this is a lot more romantic than I usually get on this channel, but bear with me. For me, this whiskey kind of reminds me of an autumn campsite first thing in the morning. You had a great night. You're the first person to wake up. You step outside your tent and you're greeted with that sort of like crisp, fresh, cool morning air. There's a fire, or there was a fire last night. It's been snuffed, but there's still little hints of smoke dancing around in the air. You take a bite of a nice big fresh juicy red apple for breakfast. What else? It rained last night, so the trees are damp, the soil's damp, the leaves on the ground are damp. You have that sort of damp earth smell everywhere. And you drank last night. You get little whiffs of whiskey from the empty glasses you left near the fire. So, wow, yeah, how's that for some imagery? Obviously, I do like this stuff. I think this is a stunning whiskey, and it always has been. I've heard that Bunnahabhain isn't stretched quite as thin as some other distilleries when it comes to aged stock, which probably helps explain why stuff like the 12-year-old, stuff like the 18-year-old are always so consistent. These are whiskeys that are just always good. And that point carries over very nicely from my last video where I ranked the Islay distilleries and I put Bunnahabhain at the top. My justification for that was just how consistent Bunnahabhain is. Ever since I started drinking whiskey, these guys have been solid, and they still are. And you know, our 18 here is the perfect example of the kind of quality that we can expect from Bunnahabhain. I think there's actually a fair amount of older stock in this. Usually when we have our age statement, we might get a little bit of older stuff in there. I think there's quite a bit of older stuff in this. It tastes at least 18 years old. This stuff is very balanced, it's complex, it's unique, it's characterful, it's indulgent. And I don't mean indulgent in like that sweet sherry bomb Glendronach kind of way. Of course, this one is also an entirely sherry matured whiskey, but it kind of goes in a different direction. Bunnahabhain always excels at these sort of like earthy flavors, and that's true here too. We have that sort of like musty oak, autumn leaves, damp soil kind of flavor. And those flavors give it a more natural, obviously earthy, less sweet tinge to the flavor profile. For something that's entirely matured in sherry barrels, this one never even approaches being like too cloying or too sweet or too over-the-top fruity. Nothing like that. This one's indulgent in a more wild way. I keep getting brought back to that sort of like campfire, foresty, earthy imagery. And we've got those wild berries, the chocolate, the autumn leaves, the stewed fruits. There's all these great elements that come together in this whiskey in a very balanced way. You know, it's unique. I can't think of any other whiskey profile that tastes quite like this one. Anyway, I've swooned over this one enough. My score for this one is going to be 93. Obviously, I think it's an amazing whiskey. I think this is one of the best 18-year-old whiskeys that you can buy. And it's also one of my favorite core range expressions to be had just on the whole in the whiskey world. So if you are a fan of Bunnahabhain, if you like your sherried whiskeys, if you like good quality aged whiskeys, this is definitely one to check out. Obviously, I think it's beautiful stuff. It's definitely one that's always got a place on my shelf. So our value on this bottle is a little bit inconsistent. Some markets have it as kind of like this mid-range 18-year-old. Others have it as a more premium, more expensive 18-year-old. Luckily, where I live, it's the former. It's more of like a mid-range 18-year-old. I'm happy to pay the money for it. But tell you what, if I had to pay more money for this whiskey, I would. And please don't tell Bunnahabhain I said that. And I would do that because the quality is there. Very few whiskeys can match the level of quality we're getting here. And I would say this, if you're going to treat yourself to a slightly older whiskey, if you're going to treat yourself to, you know, a nice 18-year-old, let it be this one. I think it's one of the best ones. Alright, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and of course, smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried our Bunna 18 here? How does it compare to the old version? Have you compared the two? What are your thoughts? Finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.